Ladies and gentlemen, history has always been shaped by its rulers. Some become legends of tradition, others become voices of change. Today, we place side by side two monarchs of Britain, Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II and His Majesty King Charles III. Two reigns, one crown, but very different styles of leadership. Let's step back into history. Queen Elizabeth II ascended the throne in 1952. She was only 25 years old, young, inexperienced, and suddenly handed the weight of an empire. Yet, through sheer determination and dignity, she transformed herself into the very definition of stability. Imagine it, 7 decades on the throne. She met with more than a dozen prime ministers, from Winston Churchill to Liz Truss. She witnessed the Cold War, the fall of the Berlin Wall, the rise of the Internet, and the evolution of Britain from an empire to a modern nation. Her greatest strength? Silence. Queen Elizabeth rarely voiced her opinions. She never entered politics. She never let controversy touch her crown. In her calm presence, people saw continuity. They saw a monarch who belonged not just to Britain, but to the world. For millions, she became the grandmother of the nation, the symbol of grace, service, and dignity. But now, the crown rests on the head of her son, King Charles III. Charles waited longer than any royal heir in history, over 70 years. All his life, he stood in the shadows, preparing, learning, and sometimes, struggling. But Charles is not his mother. Where Elizabeth was silent, Charles is outspoken. Where Elizabeth stayed neutral, Charles takes a stand. Even before becoming king, Charles raised his voice for the environment, for climate change, for architecture, for the future of humanity. He spoke about sustainability long before the world understood its urgency. He is, in many ways, a monarch of action. And that is where the difference lies. Elizabeth's reign was about duty. Charles's reign is about advocacy. Elizabeth represented the 20th century, a century of tradition, continuity, and empire. Charles represents the 21st century, a century of change, technology, and global challenges. Elizabeth united the people by never taking sides. She was the silent anchor during storms. Charles, however, risks criticism because he dares to speak, because he dares to care. His reign will be judged not by how still he stands, but by how much change he brings. Let's not forget Elizabeth had the luxury of time. She reigned for more than 70 years. Charles, however, begins his monarchy at a later stage in life. His time will be shorter, and his challenges greater. So here is the question. Will Charles be able to modernize the monarchy for a new generation? Or will he be remembered as the king who could never escape the shadow of his mother's legendary reign? Only history will decide. But one truth is clear. Queen Elizabeth II will forever be remembered as the monarch of dignity, silence, and stability. King Charles III is carving his place as the monarch of voice, advocacy, and transformation. Two monarchs. Two eras. Two legacies. And one crown that carries the weight of 1,000 years of history. Ladies and gentlemen, the reign of Queen Elizabeth is closed, the reign of King Charles has just begun. And the story is still being written.